All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is August 9th, 2023. It's the 9 year anniversary of the Michael Brown killing and the Ferguson aftermath. I recall some buildings burned. But on this day, we see Hawaii on fire, a beautiful place in the world. And also in the headlines, this morning, CNN kind of telling the dreary story of how it is for Ukraine, how as they try to go on an offensive against Russia, which doesn't, I thought it's like, aren't you trying to defend your country? But as they try to go on the offensive, they're getting slaughtered. That's a story today. So just all this low vibration, really negative stuff on the screens, in front of the minds of the masses. Also in the headlines today, special counsel obtained search warrant for Donald Trump's Twitter account. And I actually want to start with that story, and then from that story, talk about some of these other ones, because there's a persistent pattern with all of them. And the Donald Trump warrant Twitter account just follows such a perfect pattern that we've been documenting nonstop. This story's gone to a whole new episode with Elon Musk and his path to take over Twitter, which began April 14th. 2022. I remember exactly where I was that day. I had just gotten to town after a lot of driving from the Pacific Northwest down to Oklahoma City to gather with the people to raise awareness about what really happened on April 19th, 1995 in Oklahoma City, which actually, I got to keep that in my head because it fits with the exact pattern we're going to talk about today. But yeah, again, this path has just been such a straight line, and it will continue to unfold this way. And hopefully, sooner than later, more people will find the information about to be shared in this video and really start to take notice and speak out like people in this community are. So, notice. Today, August 9th, leaves 144 days left in the year. This is a biblical number, but it's also a number that's important to a society that is the military order of the Catholic Church, and that is the Jesuit order. Again, the first act of weather warfare ever admitted to is August 15th, 1952. That happens to be the Jesuit order's birthday. And, Donald Trump's brother just died the other year on August 15th, and anyhow, the Jesuits, they are largely responsible for the calendar we're on, the language we're speaking, and if you just follow this code, you see the way things unfold. So notice also where Jesuit order, the phrase equates to 144 in Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. Notice President Biden does as well, and Biden and Trump both have Jesuit educations, and this number has a lot of history, and some of that history very fateful in relating to the presidency. So look at all of these parallels. Recall at Jesuit Georgetown on June 12th, 2020, they simulated the upcoming election, which was November 3rd, 2020, 144 days later, but they simulated with Biden narrowly winning, Trump refusing to step down, which led to deadly violence in America. That was simulated at Georgetown 144 days before the election. Trump at the Vatican, that happened prior. Trump was with the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, when the Jesuits were founded in France, August 15th, 1534. But when Trump was at the Vatican with the first Jesuit Pope, he was just in Jerusalem for Jerusalem Day, and then he hopped up to the Vatican for May 24th, the 144th day of the year. Trump has a picture at the Vatican with the Pope with his family, just like Elon Musk does. Elon Musk made his proposal to buy Twitter on April 14th, 14/4, the anniversary of the Lincoln assassination, and a lot of people don't realize because it's been scrubbed from history, but Abraham Lincoln blamed the Jesuits for the American Civil War. And many of the founders were worried about the Jesuits because they were suppressed at the time the country was being founded, but then their suppression ended also at the beginning of the country's history. And, next thing you know, the nation's capital is getting moved from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C., which just happens to be the Jesuit stronghold. The land named after a man, or the land was owned by a man named Francis Pope. Now, all these years later, Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, the 266th pope who speaks in Washington, D.C. in the New World on the 266th day of the year, which goes with the Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, having a numerical value at 266. But anyway, Lincoln was shot on 14/4. The latest U.S. president to be assassinated, JFK, he was killed 144 days from meeting with the Pope. His brother was reported dead at 1:44 in the morning. RFK, 1:44 in the morning. We learned about MLK's assassination through RFK. MLK was killed on 4/4, and funny enough, if you spell out the words 44 and if you spell out the date April 4th as words, they both equal 144. April 4th, and, just to the world of popular culture, Kanye West and Donald Trump, they're buddies. Kanye West is also running. I forget which one it is. It's what Jay-Z and Beyonce were married on X date, and Kanye and Kim were married on the other date. One of them was married on the 144th day of the year, and the other was married on April 4th. Again, you spell out April 4th, it equals 144, just like when you spell out the word 44. And that's a whole nother subject. But, we kind of saw what happened with FedNow News on the Ides of March, and then Bob Lee getting stabbed to death on April 4th, who relates to digital currency like FedNow. And, again, the Ides of March to remember the killing of Caesar in 44 BC by stabbing, and then Bob Lee stabbed to death. The first week they're certifying FedNow on 4/4. Anyway, branching off a little bit from 144, but not too far. 44 is a deadly number, by the way. It's part of why JFK was killed as the 44th term president of the U.S. He was number 35, assassinated at age 46. Joe Biden's the second Catholic president, number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. And again, with regards to this assassination history, the JFK Biden 46 link, remember RFK Jr., the son of RFK who was assassinated in 68, RFK Jr. got in this year's election officially on April 5th, 144 days after the leader of the Jesuit order right now, Arturo Sosa, the Superior General. 144 days after his birthday, RFK Jr. enters, right? So what I'm saying is all of these things, what these people have been doing to us, the controllers of this world, they know they can control us with stories, and they can control us because they're authority, and we've been trained from a young age to believe the stories that come from authorities. Other people's stories don't matter so much, but authority stories, they matter. Spiritual texts from the authorities, they matter. News from the authority matters. Government matters. Your teacher matters. The policeman probably matters. Depends on household. But we are taught from a young age from all these sources of authorities who give us stories that we believe those stories. We're good if we believe those stories. If we believe in Jesus in a Christian society, that's mostly a very good thing. Do what the authorities said in the story. Believe the story. In school, you get rewarded if you circle the answer on the test that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Maybe not so much anymore. I know they're starting to change lessons like that, and that's because they always like to have culture clashing with generations. But Christopher Columbus growing up, every year had to be reinforced that he discovered America, and it always bothered me as a young person once I started to have more of my own free mind that how can this man be credited with the discovery of a land where other people already lived, and he called them Indians mistakenly? This was a man who was lost, not the man who discovered this place. Why is that where the story begins? Christopher Columbus paid for his voyage by the Catholic Church. Christopher, Christ, Jesus, New Testament, New World Order, a language, a code, a calendar, all going back to the Catholic Church, in effect since the 16th century, this stuff day after day. So, anyhow, all these 144s. By the way, on Twitter, if you're out there, if RFK Jr. really does click on this video, I linked RFK Jr. in my Twitter post because I would like for him to watch this video. Are you aware of this, RFK Jr.? Do you really think all of this is a coincidence? Dear RFK Jr., who got into the race officially 144, and actually let's look at why it's more important than just 144. Let's bring it back to Elon Musk and what they just did with Donald Trump the other day with the E. Jean Carroll countersuit getting tossed in tribute to John Carroll, who founded Jesuit Georgetown. But if RFK Jr., if you're really out there and you're sincerely running this campaign, it's all a coincidence. I mean, can you address this? Because it looks like a huge ritual is being set up using your family name again that's going to lead to a familiar story. And again, this is what we've been pointing out for years. Remember back in 2015 or 2016, but in New York, somebody planted the Trump tombstone, and that was a big national story for a minute, almost like forecasting his demise. And again, just all the parallels. De Niro becoming involved, who's in Taxi Driver about a political assassination. Hinckley getting released. You know, he tried to shoot Reagan. Trump ran on Make America Great Again. Trump and Reagan, both actors from Hollywood. People love an actor. They love a story. They love someone who can really sell it. They want to believe. Did you guys know RFK Jr., when he had his anti-lockdown and what was going on with the pandemic, which is all thumbs up, great, there should have been a lot more of that. Not enough people showed up. But did you know that the day he did it was on Georgetown's birthday? The first Jesuit university in the nation, the same place Anthony Fauci was, January 10th, 2017, at a pandemic preparedness conference, when he said the next one will be in the time of Trump's presidency, and he knew that because of his experience in D.C. with his Jesuit education at Holy Cross, head of NIH since Orwell's 84. But look at this. Look at this with RFK's announcement on April 5th. R.I.P. to Kurt Cobain and Lane Staley, big Seattle musicians, big Jesuit town there, Seattle U. The autonomous zone in the Big Joke at Seattle U. Remember that in 2020 after George Floyd and the other big Jesuit ritual. But again, you learn this code, you see who's doing all this stuff. Who's playing with the nation, trying to create the divide, trying to manipulate our minds and our hearts. But look at this. April 5th, the day that he announced, can be written 5/4 like 54 or 4/5 like 45. Both numbers matter, but starting with 54. Ambassador Hotel equals 54. So does Dealey Plaza. If you run the alphabetic order the other way, Dealey Plaza is 45, like the Jesuit acronym IHS is 45, like Jesuit order itself is 54. 54, 45, reflections of each other. Donald Trump, number 45, called president-elect on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, which equals 45. Reagan said, tear down the Berlin Wall. Trump said, build that wall. The man who wants to build a wall. And you know how many stretches man. It's such a joke with how many stretches a mile Trump supposedly built of his wall at the huge expense. It's just, and people are, Anyway, to stay focused. Just the other day, it was 54 days after Trump's birthday. John Carroll equals 54 like Jesuit order. He founded Georgetown at age 54, the same year George Washington became the first recognized U.S. president. There were other presidents, but the history really didn't start until we were settled with the new White House, the setup of the city, the new setup of the federal city, D.C. They brought the guy over from France who was a Mason, probably a Jesuit as well. Again, the Scottish Rite came to power in France. The Jesuits were created in France, but they brought L'Enfant over from France to lay it out. But that's the moment in history that starts for our books, right? George Washington. Forget about the other people who were considered presidents before him. They don't matter. And just coincidentally, the same year Georgetown launches, all the wise minds, the instructors of the time, close to the nation's government, Jesuit stronghold. You don't think they've been here to steer the ship all along? I mean, you got to be out of your mind. And most people are out of their mind. They're under total mind control. They're under total Jesuit mind control. All they're used to is authorities, stories, screens. Just don't think for yourself, because if you think for yourself and you go against these stories, you're going to find that society thinks you're, some kind of loser. Like a character in Idiocracy. Or you're like the guy who came back. The guy who, if you've never seen Idiocracy, it depends on what frame of mind you're in. You might find the movie funny or you might not, but if you're awake and you watch that movie, you'll see that who made that movie understood where society is and where it's going to and where it's being led to. But anyway, Of all days for him to announce, right? That. And then, like we said, like, oh, by the way, from his own birthday to the day that he announced was 78 days later, and Kennedy and Jesuit are 78. And the other way, Kennedy's 111, like Children's Health Defense. Again, Gematria is the alphabetic order forwards and backwards with numerology. It's super intuitive. It's simple math. You could teach this to a young child, and you can just pay attention day after day. Remember, the drummer of the Dead Kennedys died at age 63, like JFK in 63, in a big 111 ritual. And the Dead Kennedys also equals 111, the band. R.I.P. But yeah, here's the leader of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa. And the day that RFK officially got in the race, RFK Jr., 144 days. I mean, are you kidding me? In the history book, his dad died at 1:44 a.m. And you know what? I've actually made videos years ago asking Robert Kennedy Jr. to acknowledge my work. I don't know if I tweeted it at him, so he might have never seen it. But again, when I first learned Gematria, I didn't realize the two reverse ciphers. So when I first started, I knew the alphabetic order, Robert Kennedy 156, and the alphabetic order with numerology. And what blew my mind right away is looking at the story. June 5th, the day he shot, is typically the 156th day of the year. And 6/6 is the day he died. So Robert Kennedy shot on June 5th, typically the 156th day, dies June 6th, 6/6 at 1:44 in the morning. And then into our research, we noticed, like, wait a minute, look at the parallel with JFK and the Pope in 144 days. Again, JFK, he met with the Pope on July 2nd and died November 22nd, 1963. July 2nd to November 22nd, 1963. It is 143 days later, which also matters, but if you count the span of days, it's a total span of 144 days. So his meeting with the Pope to his death, 144 days. And look at Jesuit order in Gematria. Again, 144, like we've been talking about. We just talked about the 54. We haven't mentioned 153 yet, but again, biblical number, Holy Bible's 153, miraculous catch of 153 fish. The Illuminati's 153. The Illuminati was founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. But 72. So JFK meets with the Pope on 7/2. The 144th day from that, death. And realize, sun rituals, right? The word sun equals 54 in the most simple cipher. The sun moves 72 degrees on the astrological wheel. The Catholic Church has given us this way to tell time that's all about 12. The number 144 has a square root of 12. 12 months, 12 hours, morning, evening. And if I didn't say so already, the sun moves 1 degree on the astrological wheel every 72 years. And in Jewish Gematria, the word time itself is 144, and there's 1,440 minutes in a day. But yeah, everything is cleverly thought out. It's biblical. The 144,000 in the end of Revelation. But yeah, I mean, it's just the thing that bothers me about, say, my mom, because she loves RFK so much, I say, if RFK is like sincere and serious, don't you think he should at least like address the things that I'm saying instead of just ignore it all the time? If RFK Jr. is really about fighting this cabal, which he never mentions as Jesuit, he never brings up the Jesuit component. He'll go after Fauci and, Gates and politicians, but he'll never bring up the Jesuit component. And it's, again, I just read, if you guys missed my video the other day, it was actually, I think in the video, actually, I don't want to give you I don't want you to watch the video. It was a few days ago. If you watch the last few days worth of videos, you're going to watch the part where I talk about, where I read from this. But this is Lincoln talking about how people blamed all the noisy things they saw in the Civil War, but didn't see who was pulling the strings to create the noisy things from the shadows, and that was the Jesuits. And again, that's how these people operate. The Jesuits aren't dumb people. They're super clever. They're super knowledgeable. They're aware of things that, because again, they're part of a lineage that goes back beyond them. The Jesuits carried on traditions that came before them. The Franciscans, the Templars, what came before that. And again, the knowledge they're carrying goes all the way back to Babylon. So anyway, there's people in this world, and the reason that they're in the rulership positions is because they have more knowledge and an advantage over the people they want to control. It's amazing to me how many people watch my videos and don't understand that by me sharing this information and trying to get more people to talk about it is just trying to even the playing field for humanity, who'd rather just stay ignorant. And like my mom, that's why my mom, it's not just my mom, it's just everybody who has something that they believe in. My mom always needs some politician to believe in. She transitioned from Bernie to kind of lost once she realized Bernie was a fraud. It took her a long time to realize Bernie was a fraud, and I kept telling her for years, and finally she saw it. Like I always say, these people are hope for the hopeless. People have really strong beliefs in that certain way that they need that candidate to believe in. There's a Dennis Kucinich out there. There's a Ron Paul. There's a Bernie Sanders. There's a RFK Jr. For a lot of people right now, it's Trump, the outsider, they think. He's not an outsider. He's born into the mega wealth. Mega wealth. What rules over us. And why do the mega wealthy people rule over us? Well, they control a system that literally they can print money out of thin air. I mean, they could make their bank account have $1 billion in it tomorrow if they wanted to, if that allows them to. Again, I mean, I was going to say, to finish the sentence, $1 billion in their account to do whatever they want to do. Put a whole bunch of pressure on a community, start buying up homes at a huge price. So next thing you know, the people who've lived in that community for 50 years, they can't afford to live there because the property taxes are now through the roof. And again, that's what happens. The old neighborhood I lived in Bothell, I knew I was moving at a bad time, but we had to move for Sweet Lady School. I mean, I did well in my house, but I knew it was going to go up way more in value, and it did. You guys, this is how it works. The neighborhood I moved into in Bothell was older homes, inexpensive homes, perfect home for your first ever home, that kind of neighborhood. And older people who live there are people who just aren't materialistic, which is actually relatively rare in America. Most people want to move up the line, but just like people who'd been in the community, they just wanted to stay there because that was home, even though it wasn't the nicest neighborhood. But they cut down all these woods that were by our house, and they started to build homes, and they put up signs that said, these homes will start at $1 million. So it's like, here's my home that I bought for $200,000 at the end of 2011. And when I sold that home, I got a great deal. I mean, I could have never dreamed that the home would appreciate that much. I knew I was buying the home at a good time. I knew it was probably rock bottom for the market, which had been coming down for the last 4 or 5 years. But again, I bought the home for $200,000. When I sold it it was either the end of 2017 or the start of 2018, I got nearly $500,000 for the house and paid $200,000. So nearly $300,000 in appreciation. And I did put money into the house and I did make it nicer, but I probably didn't put in more than, I forget now, $30,000 maybe in home improvements over the time I was there, just fixing it up and doing some of my own labor to save money. But the majority of the value appreciated just because the housing market had to turn around and then it was a bit nicer. But once they put in these homes in close proximity that started $1 million, from the time I sold my house in, again, end of 2017, beginning of 2018, to when the housing market skyrocketing, and then even after COVID, it got weirder. But by the end of 2019, my house, and the guy who bought it, he did some improvements too, so he made it even a little bit nicer. But still, it was because the homes across the street. The home's market value went up to $950,000. So in less than 2 years' time, it went from about $500,000 to almost double. And if you look at that home now the market value, because the market's gone back down, is about $780,000. But still, that's a lot more. I think about it from when I bought it. I bought it at the end of 2011 for $200,000. Now that home's gone all the way up to $950,000 and come back down at $780,000 right now. But $780,000 is still so much more. It's nearly 4 times more than what I paid for it in about a decade's time. And think about what that means, because this had gone all over with housing prices. But think about what that means for, people who are just getting out of college. Something that blew me away is looking at my nephew's situation. My nephew just got a good degree, and he's looking for work, and just things are so overwhelmingly expensive right now, it's really hard. I didn't realize how much car insurance had gone up for young people. So I'm just thinking, if you're a young person out of college to try and buy a house and pay for car insurance, I mean, there's just no way. And something that I'm leading back into is how these Jesuit agendas and these people controlling our money and what happens in our society and what the cost of living is and how fast they can do it. Again, these things have to be talked about so we can stop the game that's being played with us that's making life harder and harder and more difficult and more stressful. Again, to get back to my nephew's situation, I did not realize that if you're paying $200 a month at age 22 for car insurance, that's a really good deal right now at this moment in time. That's crazy. $200 a month for car insurance. When I heard what he was paying, I was like, he's got to be getting ripped off. And I started looking at it, I was like, that's actually a good rate right now for his age. What? And I've been out of touch because I haven't been that age, but in the last decade, car insurance prices have been steadily rising in hefty amounts for people under age 25. When I started driving, I could afford. I saved up for a car. Gas was $1 a gallon. Car insurance wasn't that crazy. I did remember it costing a lot more for me than like for my parents because they're older and they've proven that they have good driving records. But it wasn't ridiculous. It wasn't like I could never afford that each month. I mean, now cars are expensive, interest rates are high, gas is super expensive, $200 a month insurance, rental rates have raised everywhere, along with just everything else. There's been a shortage of places for people to live, so rents are higher. It's just like, man, you got to make really good money to be able to afford things that were not that difficult when I was coming up. So. And it starts to make sense, right? Because again, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, it's about putting a squeeze on humanity to stop consumption. And I see where that's coming from. But it's like, God, can't we do this in a way that's less stressful and traumatic for humanity? And also the thing is, you have to realize all of this is being done for a reason, but it's not being explained to us. It's sort of loosely being hinted at, Al Gore telling us, like, we got to do something dramatic, or this whole world's going to be over by 2010. And it's like, well, I guess that wasn't exactly right. But, things in the world definitely aren't looking as good as they were in terms of nature. I just remember growing up as a child, Mount Hood outside of Portland. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Mount Hood was where the U.S. Olympic team trained because they could train there. And they trained another location too. But that was one place they trained year round because the top of the mountain always had snow. So you could always snow or ski or snowboard the summit, the peak of the mountain. And they maintain it so you don't have to worry about avalanches and all that, but it was an ideal place to ski year round. Well, I mean, in the last 10, 15 years, that definitely hasn't been the case. There's a lot of summers where it's just like a barren rock. And yeah, things are changing. And there's arguments about why they're changing. Does Earth go through cycles? Is that why every great spirituality has a tradition about a great flood that like wiped out a lot of people and changed the Earth and created all kinds of beliefs? Those people got wiped out. Did those people get wiped out because they were bad, or did they get wiped out because, things happen on this Earth and very quickly a lot of ice can become a lot of water? I don't. Again, these are good things to debate and present the best case because somewhere's the truth, but it has to be earned and found. The problem is people are just buying into narratives, and a lot of those narratives that they buy into start with the household they grow up because, mom and dad are Republican, and on the Republican conservative talk, it's like, climate change is all a bunch of BS. The world's always been this way. Man can't really have an impact in God's world. Just go out and live your best life and be a free flag waving American. And then, other kids growing up in mom and dad's house and they're listening to more NPR, and maybe they're in Seattle and some public access station. And it's like, we got to get out there and, we got, there's people who want to see everything that's happening in the world right now. They want to see the world come to a stop, And in a way, I'm one of those people. I got to be honest, because I don't like this world. But I don't want it to be done in a cruel way, really. I just want people to say, like, okay, here's what's going on, humanity. Here's the goals. Let's solve the problem, but also let's make this transition as smooth as everybody. Maybe we all do have to cut back, but let's make sure we're still getting proper nutrients and we're living in safe communities, and we're not wrecking people's world. Because again, wrecking people's world. How about, you know what, America? There's killer germs out there, and we got to lock this nation down like we've never been before, but we're going to keep up Walmart and Amazon, okay? Walmart and Amazon can stay open so everybody can get their stuff. But you who built your business for the last 30 years, sorry, you might not make it through this because we're going to keep you locked down for a long time. Yeah, you're probably still going to have to pay your rents to the landlord. That might get expensive. That might put you in the grave. You might have to declare bankruptcy, but sorry, we got to do this to save the nation from the killer germs from China. Right after the whole pandemic was simulated with bunch of Jesuits. But yeah. Anyway, Robert Kennedy, he is trying to raise awareness to things going on and that people need to wake up to, but he's not really naming, the people that Lincoln did, right? And Lincoln's death factors in with the deaths of both of his family members, and it's very clear that the Jesuits got, one way or another, they massaged him into making that official announcement 144 days after the Superior General's birthday. There's just no way that's an accident. And there's been, again, if you guys haven't read my first book, there's a whole chapter on dead Kennedys. I mean, there are some persistent patterns. So I would think at this point, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if you're trying to get the word out about things and what's going on, I can't comprehend how a person like that couldn't want to help get out this information, especially if they're getting set up. I mean, if he doesn't realize that he did enter the race 144 days after the Superior General's birthday in light of all that history, I mean, that'd be another reason to speak out. He was making headlines the other week saying that the Secret Service won't give him a security detail, so he feels very vulnerable. I guess when you're a presidential candidate, you're supposed to be provided a Secret Service, but that must only be if you hit some threshold or raise X amount of money, because think about all the people who have wanted to run for president or in their own town, have been out on the corner. Did they have Secret Service out there? No. So. Yeah, and the thing we just talked about with the Parkland firing 139 shots, because again, in Gematria, Parkland and gun controller 139, and JFK went to Parkland Hospital after he was shot, and Jackie Onassis died on the anniversary of the Parkland Hospital opening, the 139th day of the year. Yeah, you can just see how this whole story is coming together and where it's going, and it's been brewing. I mean, they've been. We're deep in the book right now. If the book started with 2015, I mean, it really started way before that. But let's just say this book started 2015 with Trump announcing he's running for president of the United States. About the same moment, Elon Musk is becoming this larger-than-life superstar in the tech world. People starting to think of both men as saviors of humanity. I find it hilarious how Orwellian it all is. Again, in the time Elon Musk has been the Twitter guy, I've had way more posts censored. And I'll never forget that my first channel was deleted in 2017 on his birthday. The first of many channels deleted, but June 28, 2017. Yeah, so. Did I mention that Elon Musk reinstated Trump? I might have forgot this one. Elon Musk reinstated Trump on Twitter 144 days after his birthday. Again, he offered to buy Twitter on April 14th, 14/4 at $54 per share. Trump's motto, "You're fired," 144 and 54. The thing with Georgetown and E. Jean Carroll 54 days after his birthday, because of John Carroll, Mr. 54, establishing Georgetown at 54, on the same day the Exorcist director dies. And the Exorcist director set the movie in Georgetown. The guy who wrote The Exorcist is a Georgetown grad, said the Jesuits shaped his mind. These people planting demons in society. Total mind control. Steering their hearts and minds the way they believe, which turns the way they think about things, which creates the behavior. Speaking of the Jesuits, let's not forget, what they did with Travis Scott and his giant stage that was a huge cross where people were reportedly trampled. November 5th. Remember the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Day, very important to the Jesuits. That was on the anniversary of the album coming out after Tupac's death with him on the cross, like his stage was a cross. The Jesuits are from Rome. I just see this headline up here right now. Rome archaeologist says Travis Scott's Circus Maximus concert risked damaging ancient site. Again, I just, whenever I first hear a headline and just see another, and there's been other stuff with Travis Scott, but it's just, again, like what are they really trying to plant in your head through the story? Are they trying to plant the idea of just the way history is being tarnished, forgotten history? Right now, just so I mean, YouTube, what it used to be. YouTube used to be this awesome platform where it was easy to search for content on what you were looking for, and find well done videos. Maybe not everything in it was accurate or right, or it was biased, but still, listen to what somebody says and then go out and research it and say, okay, let me see if what they said is accurate. Again, I know the videos I put out, unless I misspeak, it's accurate. And usually when I misspeak, it's obvious what I meant to say. I always laugh when people leave a long comment about something I misspoke about. I'm like, okay, based on what you wrote, isn't it probably obvious what I meant to say? That's also intelligence for people who didn't know that. You know, like sometimes there's probably a lot of people who had the same observation and they didn't write 3 paragraphs about what the obvious misspeak was. They just said, oh, I know what he meant here. So just for the people who think like, sometimes use your intelligence. It'll keep you from wasting your time and other people's time. But also, I do always welcome feedback. It's just some feedback, I'm like, okay, this person didn't need to spend this much time on this. Obviously, it was just a simple misspeak, but based on what I said in the 8 other parts in the video. God. People. Yeah, there's even more to this list, you guys. I mean, this isn't the whole list. It's just, I mean, isn't this list redundant enough? Atlanta area prosecutor expected to seek more than a dozen indictments in Trump case. I'm going to die if there's 15 indictments out of Atlanta. That number plays so hard with that city, especially in sports. We call Atlanta the 15 city. Here, I'll show you the gematria of Atlanta and why. See how Atlanta's 15 and 120? Again, alphabetic order, forwards and backwards with numerology. Those other numbers matter to Atlanta too, but 120 is the 15th triangular number. That means if you add 1 through 15 together, it equals 120. And for the record, Illuminati. Illuminati is actually a lot like Atlanta, for the record. It's got 3 of the same numbers, 48, 69, and 120. But the Illuminati was founded on the first day of the 5th month by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. You can also look at it as 5-1, going with his name, Adam Weishaupt 51. And by the way, just one more thing. He founded his society as Order of Illuminati, which is 201. He reshuffling a 120. He died 201 days after the anniversary of its establishment. He was of the Jesuit Order, which is 201. Michael Brown is 201. Today's the anniversary of the Michael Brown killing, and with regards to it happening just outside of St. Louis and Ferguson, remember the article that ESPN wrote, The Road to 200, about Tom Brady's 201st career win against the Rams, back when the Rams were in St. Louis? In Jewish gematria, Rams equals 201. Tom Brady was born in 1977, 201 years after the country and the Illuminati. And remember, he came to fame with the Patriots right after 9/11 and the Patriot Act, after 2 towers became 0 before they became 1. But this 201, Pope Francis's birthday, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201, right? The founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius Loyola, 201. This is the other piece, 201, 144. Jesuit order alone is 144. If you put a the in front of it, the Jesuit order forwards is 177, but in reverse it's 201. By the way, when Elon Musk banned Kanye West on Twitter, that was 177 days from Kanye West's birthday. Event 201, the simulation of the pandemic, was put on by Klaus Schwab, a Jesuit, whose name equals 177. These numbers go together. All these numbers go together. You might notice the Jesuit order has the 69 like Illuminati in Atlanta as well. Again, these things are all kind of synonymous, but there's these numbers that overlap in the names of the orders, and you see how those numbers are used redundantly in rituals. Again, JFK, RFK, both assassinated. MLK assassinated. We were just about how Parkland, you see how gun control is 139 like Parkland? RFK, who gave a speech about gun control shortly before he was assassinated, was killed 139 days before the major gun control legislation, the biggest of its kind in this country's history, at the end of 1968 in October. 139 days after his death. And it was 201 days after Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. And again, the deaths of MLK and RFK are connected because a lot of people learned about MLK's death through RFK speaking about it while campaigning for president. And again, MLK was killed on the 95th day of the leap year. He was named after Martin Luther, who led the Protestant Reformation and wrote the 95 Theses. We saw how MLK's sister just died at 95 this year, as all these election things are getting underway, with just all these clues around. History's past, reminders, the next coming ritual. History repeats itself. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. My people suffer for lack of knowledge. You can't handle the truth. These are like all the voices I always have echoing in my head, just all the things that were popular in culture or that you heard and learned growing up. And I just think about like how true they are. It's like, yeah, people really do get mad when you start to talk about things that very well could be the truth and that they should think about. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I will classify everything as in every presentation I do. This very well could be the truth. To me, this looks like the truth. I've been researching it for a decade because I thought there was something there when I started. I knew there was something to numbers and rituals and what's going on in society and all the numbers in the Bibles and something spiritual. I could know with every, part of my existence that there was something going on with that. I feel that the research I've done the last 10 years, I think the research I've done the last 10 years has proven my point. And the theories we had from the beginning are getting proven correct. The Jesuits are right at the tip of the list for who might very well have the capability of been doing this. I've been talking about that since the beginning. It made sense. The historical timeline was there. But again, Parkland 139, like gun control. Parkland Hospital, where JFK went to after he was shot, opened on the 139th day of the year. Jackie Onassis dead on that day. RFK killed 139 days before the gun control. The last major gun control in this nation was on the 13th of September, 13/9. That happened 2 years before Tupac died from gun violence on that day, just the way they like to intertwine stars. And again, Tupac died in a huge Jesuit ritual album put out on the Jesuit day of him on the cross like Jesus when the Jesuits were the Society of Jesus. Anyway, I just don't understand, coming back, how more people can't want to talk about this information and share it. And by the way, Tupac Shakur dead on that day, 139. Freemasonry is 139. Modern Freemasonry, a Jesuit creation. America's 139. Jesuit Masonic Alliance. D.C. Jesuit Masonic Stronghold. Nation's capital. The Bavarian Illuminati, founded by the Jesuit with plans to infiltrate Freemasonry. 139. Tony Soprano and Frank Vincent from The Sopranos dead in a huge 139 ritual, both in Italy. Portrayed gangsters from Rome. The mob, well, I guess they're from New York City, but they go back to Italy. And remember, Tony Soprano died in Italy on the 99th day of Pope Francis being Pope. And Sopranos came out in 99, and then Gematria equals 99? I mean, really? Kobe dead at 41 on the Pope's 41st day of his age, traveling from Catholic Mass. Kobe Bryant, 41. And all the other numbers we could talk about, all these things too. But it's just... yeah. Big Tech's amazing. I got to give it to Big Tech with their censorship and how they make it feel like, as a content creator, when you're talking about things, that you're in an echo chamber. Because, again, it's just like unreal how it's like, man, 6 years ago, video like this would have gotten so many views, so many great responses, so many additional finds, long comments sharing additional information. There'd be like hundreds of comments. There'd be tens of thousands of views. And now it's like there'll be 2,000 views, 15 comments. Like, man. When you put out content for the world, it makes you feel like you're actually doing something when you see a reaction. When it just feels like crickets are chirping back, it's like... Is this a positive use of time, or do I need to figure out an entirely different way to do this? Okay. We'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. Back on the writing grind. We got TFR tonight. That starts in about 6.5 hours. I'll be writing between now and then. And thank you to the super chatters. Ray with a big 20. I appreciate that. And... congrats to the winners. Always with a, will you cover this for $2? I appreciate it. Lawyers for doing their work. They make about, who knows how much they make. Hundreds of dollars an hour. Gematria decode, $2 an hour. One's actually helpful to the world. That's why not everything's about money. But, Gen Z influencer Lil Tay dead at 14. Man. Well, then the USA Today says 15. Is it 15 or is it 14? It's probably not an accident if they're not 14 that headline was written, because we see that number in death rituals. Dead is 14. So that's the first thing that stands out. And there, just to put it up for you guys here. Lil Tay, teen internet rapper, has died. Man, Lil Tay, whatever music they got online, might be raking it in today, because they are in every news source. You guys ever heard of Lil Tay before? Here, let me see. Oh my God. Come on, you guys. That's why, how many times have I said every rapper should know the gematria of the name that's put on them? Lil Tay, 798338. How about murder? 798338. I mean, are we not typing? We were just talking about the other day with this ugly god rapper supposedly killing his friend's father, and then the span of 83 days, and the guy who was asked to portray Mac Miller being dead 38 days from the Mac Miller death anniversary, and Mac Miller died on the day Tupac was shot, who ended up dying on 38 date Numerology like Biggie. If you're new here, a rapper also has the 3834 like murder, and if you missed yesterday's video on Daystar Peterson getting sentenced to prison on 8/8 after once upon a time being arrested 88 days from the shooting of supposedly Megan Thee Stallion. Again, Daystar's 88, like Daystar Peterson. Again, this stuff's not an accident. So, Lil Tay, who has the same gematria as murder, and then not to be outdone with regards to the 25, death has the gematria of 97 and 25, where 97 is the 25th prime number. And, you know, the word heart also has, that might be part of why, because again, look at Lil Tay and look at heart, right? And look at murder. Just think about it. And you know what, while we're at it, let's put death up there too. All of those words have number overlap. And one of those numbers is 25. 25, I guess technically it's not in murder, but it's in death, heart, Lil Tay. Again, they're constantly trying to mess with our hearts and minds. And there's a connection with the heart and the mind. There's actually a scientific connection if you read about it. There's also a scientific connection with what's going on in your intestines and your brain. You know, that gut feeling? You might have better gut feelings and have better gut instincts if you actually take care of your gut, because your whole body's a system. But anyway, death, heart, Lil Tay, death's something that plays with people's heart, right? I mean, worst day for a lot of people is the day that their loved one dies. Could be even worse if a whole bunch of loved ones die at the same time. Could happen in a tragedy in a vehicle of some sort. But also, death is constantly being used to pull on our heartstrings. You guys ever watch Fox News and some of the ads that they run to raise money? It feels wicked to me. But they're trying to take advantage of people. It's like, this little old granny of this religion is getting killed right now. It's like a new modern day Holocaust. Send in $12 instantly to help her out. It's like what? Is that really going on? I feel like I am getting played for a fool here. Anyway. And you guys ever watch that Tunnels to Towers? I mean, it seems like it's a good cause. Send in $11. We began with helping out the 9/11 victims with your donation of $11. Look, Mark Wahlberg says we are so reputable. And then they get some people on there with a story to sell it, besides Mark Wahlberg. But have you guys ever seen this? Tunnels to Towers, donate $11. I mean, isn't that weird? Donate 11. We started with 9/11. Again, 9/11 is all about 11. 11th day of the month. New York, the 11th state. The World Trade Centers look like an 11. The first plane to hit the building was flight AA11. 11's the master number in numerology. It was a huge numerology ritual, all planned out many years in advance. I don't know, maybe that's the way to do it. You guys, let's get to 9/11 truth. Donate $11 now. This granny will die unless you donate another $25. They're running ads like this nonstop. And it must be a cash cow, because between that and selling that Mike guy with the mustache pillows, it's like all they got on that news station. Although they think Fox News is the truth. None of these networks are the truth. They're all part of the same thing. But one plays to this political side, one plays to this political side. You know, actually, I'm gonna rescind what I just said. If you put a gun to my head and I had to have a child watch one news station, which is not something I'd want them to do, but if like it was like, you're going to make them watch one of these news stations for the next 4 hours, and it has to be one, are you doing MSNBC, Fox, or CNN? It was like the three big cable news networks here in the U.S. The reason I would put them on Fox, which is also not good, is because there might be a chance within that 3 hours of Fox broadcasting where they take a mainstream storyline and ask you to question. Other news networks aren't doing that, and CNN and MSNBC are pretty much doing the same stories. They're all pretty much doing the same stories, but just Fox will have the most different slant, but it's all political, it's all partisan. But unquestionably, Fox News does ask you to question something, and other news networks aren't doing that. They're just like putting thoughts in your head. You should be outraged at this, think this, here's this story, here's this perspective. Yeah. Fox is doing that too, but again, occasionally they ask you to question something. So, anyway, so many people, they think, I like Trump and I'm watching Fox and Elon Musk, I'm on Twitter even more now. It's like, okay, yeah, you're totally taken by the theater. You're believing the lies. You're bowing down to the flag. That was a song from when I was growing up, from a different Zach. Okay, here, let's look at more at Lil Tay. Do we have any more on Lil Tay, who's either dead at 14 or 15? The headlines just can't keep it straight. New York Post is also going with 14. Look at Lil Tay with the big money. He's got the money phone. Pose every rapper's done for the last 30 years. Just, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Hold on. Lil Tay, man. Claire Hope. Okay, it was a girl. I gotta be honest, I couldn't tell. Claire Hope, the Canadian preteen internet rapper known as Lil Tay. I got to be careful, right? See, right away, they're just trying to get you in trouble. You can't even say anything out loud. I already offended the woke police and stepped over the LGBTQ lines by saying I couldn't identify. I didn't mean anything by it. It's just like, that scene was, that happened back before, occasionally you would see somebody as a young person, you might say to your friend, you might like, can you tell if she's a boy or a girl? Sometimes, some people are very neutral the way they look. It is with a heavy heart. Oh, there we're already starting with the heart, right? It's with a heavy heart. Death sells like a mother. Tug on the heartstrings, man, the purse strings open up. It is with a heavy heart that we share the devastating news of our beloved Claire's sudden and tragic passing. Hope's family announced on Lil Tay's Instagram page, which has 3.3 million followers. If Jeff Young does a new volume of 33, that one might make it. I'll make it bigger. Let me highlight the 3.3 million followers. We have no words to express the unbearable loss and indescribable pain. This outcome was entirely unexpected and has left us all in shock. Her brother's passing... Wait, what? Her brother's passing adds an even more imaginable depth to our grief? Okay, that sentence just was like a left hook I didn't see coming. She's dead and the brother's dead. Okay, it's another just. Did they die together? Claire and her brother's passing are still under investigation. Claire will forever remain in our hearts. Oh, we had to get hearts in there 2 times. When I was mowing the lawn this morning, I was just thinking about that. I was like, I don't talk a lot about just how heart and death overlap and how those things really go together. Because, that's what it is. When Kobe died, a lot of people's hearts sunk. When a lot of these entertainers die, people's hearts sink. Lil Tay last posted on Instagram in June of 2018. That's 5 years ago. Lil Tay achieved viral fame as a 9-year-old social media influencer. So we're hearing about this on the 9th of the month, right? And this news is breaking today, the day leaving 144 days left in the year. I'm talking about how these big tech platforms and, these wicked Jesuits. What's funny? In all the years I've been talking about Mac Miller's death and him, dying on Eazy-E's birthday and the anniversary of Tupac getting shot and just all the other parallels and why he died on that day. September 7th. It can be written 9-7 like death or 7-9 like murder. His full birth name is 79. But remember, Society of Jesus 79. I'd never actually listened to his music ever. And this morning, while I was mowing the lawn, I got the thought to look up his song Mac Miller, The Jesuits. We read the lyrics. The lyrics are wicked. But I was like, let me actually listen to the song and just see what it sounds like when you listen to it. I had never listened to Mac Miller before, and it blew me away. He does like this character voice, almost like a little kid. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, this might be like, maybe the idea of this, and maybe I'm totally wrong as somebody who's never listened to Mac Miller before, but it felt to me like he was almost like trying to pay tribute to Eminem, and maybe his character's like supposed to be a younger Eminem, like Eminem with a pre-puberty voice. And I started thinking about it more. I was like, yeah, Eminem, Mac Miller, Eminem. Like, what is really going on? I remember when we talked about Mac Miller's death, I was blown away by how many people cared. And back then we got a lot more views. But there were a lot of calls and just like connections. And yeah, there was a parallel in there with Eminem and his music at the time. I forget now. But anyway, it's funny. I listened to that this morning. I'm like, I never heard a rapper try to do like a little kid voice for their rap song. This is weird. And now it's the same day, and now like the littlest kid rapper I've ever seen is dead. At least we're told. We have no words to and if they are dead, again, I mean, to me, this is the Jesuits. Like they're heartless. That somebody did a calculation that the right day, Lil Tay's numbers up, and we could always make a few more bucks. Lil Tay's got some monetized things in our stream. Remember, the content creator, they get money, right? But they don't get as much money as the people that have the platform. Okay. Claire will forever remain in our hearts. I got to find the child's birthday. She drew backlash for using the N-word, later apologizing to those she had offended. Lil Tay was associated with the popular rappers including Chief Keef, well, his name comes up a lot, and XXXTentacion, and we talked about the mega Jesuit Jesus ritual they did with him, whom she called a father figure in a 2018 Instagram post. Oh, so this is going back to that. Was that, I've lost track of time. Was that the year he died? It was probably around then, 2018. Might have been before that. It might have been like early 2018. I gotta go back and look. In 2018, she starred in a 3-episode docuseries about her rise to fame titled Life with Lil Tay. So they made it to fame at age 9. I could see how this could happen, but at the same time, you know what this also reminds me about is about, I'm always saying it seems that the people who make it in social media are people who are chosen. Again, there's people who are controlling the levers, the algorithms. They'll destroy your channel if they want to. They'll blow you up and probably give you way more views than you're really getting if you want to. When we were just down at the All-Star game, educating about, the ritualistic deaths that go with MLB in Seattle on July 11th, when we were walking back that day, shout out to the people who were walking with me. There are a few other people in the group who saw this, but on the way back, it looked like older brother, younger brother, and I'm guessing younger brother wasn't much older than 10. He might have been 12. He's somewhere in that age range. But it was older brother who's probably closer to 18 and younger brother. And, they're out there and they're playing like popular hip hop song beats, but they're rapping over it with their own lyrics. And they were both good. But the little brother really did seem like the bigger star. I mean, we all walked by, we're like, man, I think he's the future. So at the same time, I think if anybody heard that child rapping in Seattle, they would have been like, damn, he's really impressive. How old is he? And, nobody right now has any idea who I'm talking about. So how come he didn't make it? How come his YouTube channel doesn't have millions of followers? You know what I mean? I haven't even heard Lil Tay, but I would bet right now, I'd bet a lot of money right now without even listening to Lil Tay. And this might sound dumb, but I bet a lot that the kid I just saw in Seattle rapping away, he gonna smoke Lil Tay because he was really talented. He looked like a pro. It was like, wow, how good is he going to be by the time he's his brother's age? And, Yeah, it just, I just see how many people are on these social media platforms that have all these views and are supposedly the most watched. And it's like, these people aren't even talented. They're not even interesting. Unless it's just that it's a society of morons and they gravitate towards mediocrity and other morons like them. And that could also be it, but I'm just making the point. Why is a 9-year-old mega famous? There's probably a lot, and I'm just talking about a kid in Seattle. I bet you go through a city like New York City. He might be. I'm not gonna take the bet for if he has to go up against 10 other 9-year-olds rapping on the street in New York City, because they might even be better. But again, there's a lot of talented people in the world. There's hardly any people who make it to the stage of success. So that's where I'm coming from, and I see as someone who used to have of good momentum where it felt like we were actually going to change the world getting this knowledge out. I've had the experience of the last 6 years where censorship's just really, there's been some windows in the last 6 years, but for like ever since like Kobe died, man, the window's been shut. That was like the last time the window was open at all. The last time we got any views is when Kobe died. And that's sad. That's sad. And the thing is about when Kobe got views, it didn't get nearly as many views as, the deaths of, people that got a lot more traction when, like Nipsey Hussle, and Kobe Bryant's way bigger than Nipsey. My Kobe Bryant work should have got way more views than Nipsey Hussle work. But Nipsey Hussle was also in the window at the time where we were still sort of getting traffic. The algorithm was on us, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. So anyway, all my thoughts about Lil Tay, and then he dies on this day leaving, well, at least the news comes out today, the day leaving 144 days left in the year. We know how ritualistic this is with the Jesuits. About what they did with the Jesuits with, Tupac, Travis Scott. There's a lot bigger list. You can add Biggie to that list and a lot more. Here's something Lil Tay once said. Right now, I'm in a bad situation and I don't want to talk about these things. Adding that her father had filed something to the court and the court ordered us to go back here. And he said that I was in danger and stuff. So I just want to bring up that we're in a bad situation, but I don't want to talk about it. If you're someone like that who goes through life with communication like that, that means you learned how to communicate in a way that's just not helpful at all. Just creating problems. Language can be dangerous. If you don't want people to know that you got problems, don't even bring them up. I just want to leave guys on a cliffhanger. Things are bad right now. I don't want to talk about it. She said of Hope, he was threatening to arrest and my mom arrested if we didn't go back. I didn't see him for multiple years. He never saw me for so long. I mean, people do have family problems. That's common in America, but most 14-year-olds don't just end up dead. And again, it is with a heavy heart that we share the devastating news of our beloved Claire's sudden and tragic passing along with her brothers. And we don't have anything to explain what happened. It's under investigation, but we just want privacy. I mean, just like, you guys, don't you get tired of watching? I mean, is this not the same statement for every celebrity death? We don't know what happened right now. We just want privacy. Okay, if you want privacy, like, why is there even a story? Why aren't you reaching out to these networks or just not even saying anything? Like, how's the news even finding out? How's it always breaking so fast before they even know anything? You want privacy, but the story's out there? Again, you guys, it's a formula. Somebody's dead. They're going to look it up. How many people will look up Lil Tay's music for the first time today? Purchase something Lil Tay related. Again, just viewing the material that is monetized and advertised, that makes so much money for the platforms that have it. And we talked about what was in this Gematria of Lil Tay. Let's see. Claire Hope. I already know what's up with the surname Hope. I mean, that's obvious to me. Claire Hope, 56. I mean, really? Like, Society of Jesus, like another number that goes into a gazillion of these rituals. Tupac on the cross on Remember the 5th of November, the day leaving 56 days left in the year. Just like the Travis Scott concert date. Society of Jesus, 79, like Lil Tay. Woo, man. It just... And today leaves 144 days left in the year. Somebody just wrote me a long email about how they can't get their girlfriend on board because they said the problem with their girlfriend is they watch my videos and they go, yeah, but didn't you see what he did? To make it the Jesuits, he used the number 201, 56, and 144 and 79. I mean, he had to use 4 numbers to make the point. See, if somebody's literally watching my video and then that's where they're arriving at the end, that's cognitive dissonance because I'm always making the point real clear, right? It's just like Anthony Fauci, little Jesuit scumbag, 56, Society of Jesus, 5679. The pandemic's declared on his 79th day, being 79 years old. And not to mention, the name of the virus is 56, and the name of the solution is 56. And Gavin Newsom, who's a little Jesuit scumbag, said he's locking down California because 56% is getting coronavirus in 8 weeks. Like, if you watch that and then you're like, yeah, but 56, 79, 144, and 201. So first of all, that's an illogical thought. And second, it just tells me everything that I need to know about that person. They're not to offend about your girlfriend, but they're either not smart enough or they just don't want to acknowledge because it messes with their worldview. So it's like, if you like your girlfriend and you want to be in that relationship, maybe just don't press on this subject right now. It's just like Sweet Lady. I bring this up sometimes with her, but I know that she's just ultimately, she gets where I'm coming from. She just thinks the world can't change. And she thinks, going up against, powerful things that are controlling is a threat to your lifespan. That's her other big part of it. Because that's how it is where she comes from. In Burma, which has now been, in the news because the government overthrew the military. And again, before that, it had the longest ongoing civil war out of any country in the world. So, anyhow, those are the stories for today. Remember Russia, Ukraine? If you weren't here from the beginning, we predicted what day it was going to go off before it even happened, and we were right. And again, it's all one big sick Jesuit joke. The Jesuit order equals New World Order. New World Order, New Testament, New World, New English language was once upon a time. Isn't it funny how things that, like the word new applies to old things. It applies to the New Testament. It's old. Newest language in the world that's spread all over. It's really English. It's getting old. The New World's hasn't ever really been the New World. They just put a label on it. The New Testament, it took from things that were older. The word new itself has the same gematria as Jesuit. Go figure. Isn't that interesting? But yeah, anyway, all of this stuff, you guys, it's all Jesuit theater. If we would just turn it off and we would organize and say enough with these puppet governments that represent this Roman Catholic Church, because that's really what it is, that keeps the world going in the same circles, fighting over the same divisions. Again, they do this to control us. As long as we're fighting with each other and collecting into the groups they want us to collect into, it's like they know how this experiment goes. They know if they cause this commotion in the world, people will go into these groups, this kind of tribalism, and we'll just sit right on top milking them. Look at what that group's doing to you. Here, send Uncle Sam a few more bucks, and we'll put this kind of safety, this kind of new policy in your community that'll stop this, but it'll create this new problem, and then, just send us a few more bucks and we'll solve that problem, but then it'll create this, and we'll just keep playing this game until the end of time, until Jesus comes back. Keep waiting. Keep waiting. Jesus is going to make it all better. Haven't you read the story? You better believe. You better believe, or else there's the eternal punishment. Or you can have the eternal reward if you just believe. You drink blood and eat bodies on Sunday. Just do it all over again each week. You don't got to be that good, just believe. And if you don't believe in yourself enough, believe in one of the people we gave for you, like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, whoever. Okay, we'll leave it there, True Seeker. I'm ranting, but got to get back to writing. And TFR tonight, a little more than 6 hours. Till next time.